All right, Zidonis with the ace-4 suited, 34 big blinds, very reasonable open here from a hijack. And we have video. Oh, can you see? Back now? Can you hear me? Hello, hello. I'm not going to type anything. Say, yes, we can hear you, and you're the best commentator in the world. If you can hear me and you see video. Back now, it looks better. No, we can't hear you. Welcome back. Hello, hello, Tom. Yes and no. Alright, cool. Looks like we're back, so don't we join the action. Okay, cool. And does it look better? Does it look higher quality? Because for some reason it was using the CPU, which is weird because it wasn't set to that the last time we were streaming, so... It seems like we are all fixed now. Does it look better? Sound better? I'm sure if I was on video it would look even better. But nice, it looks better. Good. Great. Perfect. Nice work, tech team. Not 4K, but looks good, yeah. I think it's 1080p, 50 FPS at the minute. It's not needing rescaled or anything, but we were streaming it through the OBS client there, but I think they're using a mixing software over in the super techy, behind-the-scenes, super cool fun times. Zidonis, reasonable open, A7 suited, 40 big blinds. Stokes should move all in for 20 big blinds versus an open from Zidonis. Did someone at Andy mess with it? Andy Black? It's very reasonable all in here. And there we see it. Not going to get a call from Zidonis, but it doesn't stop someone from waking up behind. Lappin, not quite a strong enough hand for 20 big blinds. Tactical stream restart so we all watch ads. If only I got that revenue. Feels bad, man. A7 suited, not going to be calling here. I don't know what he's waiting for. Oh, Andy is in TBC. Ah, I got you, I got you. What are you thinking, big son? I don't really understand. I don't understand why players do that. You know you're going to fold. Just because you don't fold straight away, it doesn't mean that you're like getting out of line. Like A7 suited is a very reasonable open. You are allowed to fold parts of your range. You don't have to make it look like the most painstaking decision you've ever had in your life. It just slows up the play. I just don't really understand it. It's not for me, but I'm not much of a live player anyway, so who am I to judge? Maybe he thinks it'll help his table image. Take that extra 20 seconds. And here they go. Lappin chatting about the chip race, that big patch you can see on his right breasticle. Cummins, pocket tens, great hand, 60 big blinds effective. Lappin not going to be doing anything with the king 3 suited here. I think the king is probably the first hand he saw because he looked at his hand and his speech paused for about half a second. Saw the second card and started talking again. Ace queen suited, or ace queen off, sorry, in the small blind. Gonna be a, ooh, just calling 60 bigs effective. I would have quite liked to have seen a 3-bet from Manamad, but instead the squeeze is gonna be Squoze. Batu with ace king in a really nice 3-bet squeeze spot. Cummins playing over 60 big blinds effective. It would be a little bit out of line to see the 4-bet all-in with the pocket tens for 60. I would like to see the call. I think 4-betting doesn't achieve too much versus their ranges. I think calling here the most reasonable option with pocket tens. Fella who won the high roller last night was wearing shorts. It must have been from the heat of the CPU. Oh dear. Ace queen. Good fold in the small blind. Great flop for the pocket tens of Cummins. Batu Going to be continuing a reasonable amount here. Does elect to slow down, and Cummins, I don't really like that check back with pocket tens. Unless he's just scared of a check raise, but your 60 big blind's effective. You have an overpair to the board and a 3-bet pot. The initial squeeze did not continue. And you've really got to think that you have the best hand now, facing 2 checks. I would like to see some chips going into the middle. Anywhere near 100k would be very, very nice for my liking. Even a little bit bigger. Charge those backdoor flush draws. Look like you can get the money in. You want to get the money in on a 6. You want to get the money in on a jack. If you think about the big blind squeezing range, how much jack X is there going to be? And he does go a little bit small. Not the massive fan of the 70k bet from Cummins. I do think going bigger is going to be much nicer. Does river a set. However, it might slow down the action just a little. But I think if Cummins thinks about it, how much jack X bar pocket jacks? Maybe ace jack off. We're going to get squeezed here by Bachu. And those hands are more likely to see bet the flop than ace king. Try and fold out some ace queen and maybe ace king suited that has come along. And I do think Cummins has to go for some value here. 200k would be a reasonable bet, giving his smaller sizing on the turn. I don't think I like this. I really don't like this. When you're betting in position, it is very rare that you're going to bet less than half pot. No diamonds in Bachu's hand may make him think there is a world in which the ace high hero call is good here, but I can't see it. You're going to check flop with aces sometimes. You're going to check flop with kings. Once it goes check, check, you're going to want to pot control on this turn, knowing that your opponent can have hands like jack 10 suited. You have a lot better here. You do not need to call with a hand like ace king. Having no diamond is going to make it slightly more likely that he wants to call. But I do think he will find the fold here, even though it is a small sizing on the river from Cummins. His line, not amazing for value. His sizing is a little bit small. I think that is why Bachu is staying in. He's going, why is it such a small sizing? Do I actually have the best hands enough here to continue? And he really is considering the call because it is such a small river bet. He's around a third of the pot. And a big factor is not holding an ace or the king of diamonds. Thinks he could be chopping sometimes, might even be good versus ace queen, king queen. I think that's why, if he does call, that will be the reasoning behind it. Takes one last look. Confirms that there is no diamond in his hand. It does make calling here a little bit easier. And, oh, he doesn't know. He wants to call. He does want to call. And he does eventually call. He's going to be showing the bad news. He's going to be a little bit confused as to why pocket tens check the flop, as to why pocket tens bet the turn so small, and why pocket tens also bet the river so small. It is a nice pot going to Cummins. His unconventional sizings potentially being what gets him paid off on the river. Fortunate that Bachu was not holding the ace or the king of diamonds, as that probably would have led to a fold. And our table chip leader loses a significant portion of his stack. Crispy says, delay from comms and video. Is the commentary before or earlier than the video? Chips going the way of Cummins in seat 4. Folds round to Lappin in the hijack. 10-7 off. Just going to be a fold. Round to Manamad on the button. Queen 4 offsuit. Just going to be a fold here as well. We're going to get some blind v blind action. Bachu. Queen Jack offsuit. Folds. Small blind. Oh, Shell raised from the cutoff with King 5 offsuit. Oh. I did not even notice that. I'm surprised Bachu still snap folded that Queen Jack off. Comms is after the video. No worries. We'll try and fix that for you. Did he fold the Ace King? No, he ended up calling and getting shown the bad news. Good to hear Lappin chatting at the table with these guys, creating a friendly atmosphere, making sure everybody enjoys the game. Cummins once again with the pocket 10s. Getting 3-bet by the 60 big blind stack of Munamid. Very easy call here from Cummins. No reason to 4-bet the pocket 10s this deep. And definitely not a hand he should be folding. Not a hand this strong. Alright, our delay has been sorted. And it has been checked down with Manamad making 3 of a kind on the river. Cummins going to check this one over. A very clear value bet now for Manamad. But that delay is fixed, which is beautiful. Hello from the real time. Half pot on the river from Manamad. Cummins going to be a little bit suspicious, but I think he can get away from this. Ace 5 isn't going to be used as a bluff anymore. It has showdown value. Lappin getting upset with the floor. I don't know what happened there. Doesn't look too impressed. But who's on comms? I am me, the mysterious voice inside of your ears. I am Pred Poker. You can check me out at twitch.tv/Pred Poker. Some will refer to me as Tom Parsons, my real name. Cummins should be able to fold these 10s here. He's put chips across the line. I would have said that was a call. Looks like it was a call though. Password for the Halloween free roll, please. Hello, Rajmi. If I could tell you, I would. But I have absolutely no idea what free roll you're even talking about. Never mind the password. Cummins showing the bad news. Thinks he could have folded that one, but Cummins maybe not the most experienced player given his line in that 3-bet pot versus the Ace King of Bachu. Bachu still second in chips on this table. He was chip leader earlier on in the day, but Cummins now 80 big blinds. Bachu just shy of 70, a great stack still. Lappin always the comic 60 big blinds, plenty of chips. And a very comfortable raise here from under the gun from Cummins with the King Jack of Diamonds. Lappin 8-4 off. Of course, gonna let this one go. Folds round to the button. Young through. Pocket fives. They've got him in trouble a few times today. And he finds them again, this time off 30 big blinds. Very good spot for him to set mine. No need to be getting out of line. No need to be 3-betting. Does find the call. Zydonis. King 7 suited, coming along in the small blind. My boy is here to play. I don't know if this is a completion in the small blind multi-way. I think there is a world in which it's not too awful. Jack 5 suited, of course, definitely calling here. You're not squeezing, right? Stokes, come on, thank you. Alright, let's see a flop. 4 ways. Believe it or not, through with the best of it. Oh, sorry, Cummins with the best of it. Even though one of his kings and jacks is dead. Oh, that is what I like to call the schnuts, the schnizzles, the rizzles. But not only does Cummins flop the nuts, Zydonis has a gut shot for the chop, but also the nut flush draw. Cummins batting half pot multi-way. Again, these bigger sizings multi-way not used too often. Zydonis, 30 points effective. There is a world in which Zydonis could just go all in. He has the nut flush draw. He has a gut shot to the nuts. SPR is 2-1. He's playing out of position. But early position has a very strong range. And I think I would just prefer to see a call, reevaluate on turns. But I would not be surprised if he goes all in. We do see the all in. I think that is completely okay from Zydonis. I don't think it's a big mistake. Unfortunately, he's going to get shown the nuts on the flop, but the nuts on the flop are still vulnerable. Zydonis has chop outs and also can just scoop this pot outright with a heart on the turn of the river. This is a big pot. Will Cummins continue to sun run? I say that, he actually just lost a 3-bet pot, so he's not really sun running. But let's see a turn. Doesn't help either player. And there you have it. The chop pot. Cummins probably going to feel pretty hard done by. But hey, at least he didn't lose the pot. At least that heart did not come. Zydonis going to be a little bit happier that he did not end up getting sent to the shores. Pretty sick setup. And both players increased their stacks by a couple of big blinds after all that drama. Lappin having a wee head scratch. Still got a tower of chips in front of him. 60 big blinds after making that very nice 2-bet squeeze on the turn after the flop checked through in a multi-way pot with Queen Jack on King 6-3 King, or something to that effect, with a backdoor flush draw. Coming in on the turn that Lappin did hold one card to. Folds round to Bachu in the hijack, and he does pick up the pocket tens. Nice hand to open, and Fru and Bachu are going to be getting it all in the middle here. Fru could go either way here. All in is reasonable, but I would prefer to see... Oh, well, blinds have actually just gone up. Just checking out how many chips do I have. Does decide to make the 3-bet. And Bachu, I would be very surprised if he doesn't just get the chips in here with tens. 30 big blinds effective. He can play this hand out of position, but all in is a very reasonable announcement. He's not going to get the fold, and we have seen one of these tens already folded pre-flop. Bachu drawing very thin, does have diamonds and clubs working for him. If we do see either come up on the flop. But 110 has been folded, Bachu drawing super thin. Going from 1 million chips, potentially down to just over 30 big blinds in the case of about an hour. Queen, 8 rainbow, no help to the pocket tens of Bachu, and he's going to be drawing to 1 out here unless tomfoolery was to happen on the turn, but that was not the case. And that is Bachu unfortunately losing a couple of big pots. Doesn't seem too impressed, and Fru up to 60 big blinds. Just a cooler for both of them. Couple of garbage hands getting out of the way before we see Stokes wake up with a very reasonable hand here, just shy of 20 big blinds. And he actually just moves all in, a very aggressive and an unnecessary play from Stokes. No need to just open shove that hand for such a deep stack size. A lovely little min raise would have done the job. You're going to get more chips that way. Lappin, no chance to play post-flop. Bachu, reasonable open with the ace-3 of clubs from early position here. Playing 30 big blinds. We'll throw in 2 Stokes in the cutoff. Cummins, king-queen suited on the button. Stokes announces all in, and Cummins is going to have a think with this one. King-queen suited. Does have a reasonable amount of equity. Stokes known to get out of line But there is the early position player behind. King Queen will find the fold, but definitely good to see that Cummins is considering his options from the button here. Lappin letting it go. And Bachu will also let this one go. And I guess we'll just never know what Stokes had. But Stokes picks up chips over the 24 big blind mark. Definitely a bit more of an atmosphere on this feature table, which is always nice to see. Players getting involved with each other, having conversations, learning about their fellow table mates. Everyone understanding that you are going to be on this table for a few hours. You may as well get along with the people that you're there with. Very reasonable folds here. Lappin going to fold the King 4 off, I would expect, the majority of the time. King 4 suited going to be an open, but if he does believe that he has an edge over his opponents, you might see him decide to open this one, and he does go for it. Oh, he goes for the limp with the King 4 offsuit. Very interesting. Shell, of course, going to be using this King Queen as a raise. And Lappin then folds the King 4. Interesting play from Lappin. You'd normally see people use King 4 suited here. You'd use your suited combinations. Not too sure about that King 4 play. Through King Queen, very reasonable open here from under the gun. Looks like he's made it 26. Stokes had ace jack. Cummins has ace queen. 60 big blinds effective. I think I prefer a call to a 3-bet here with the ace queen offsuit. But it looks like 3-bet is going to be chosen from Cummins. Yeah, good fold from Frew. Not going to come along with the King Queen offsuit there. King Queen suited going to continue a lot of the time. I wouldn't have minded just a call there with the ace queen offsuit, 60 big blinds effective. But using it as a 3-bet there is definitely reasonable. Alright, Stokes picking up some hands. Ace 10 of diamonds now under the gun +1. Very reasonable open. Looks like it's going to find its way round to the hijack. Lappin lets it go on the button of Manamid. 9-5 suited, never coming along here. And for the big blind, Jack 8. Pretty tight fold to not defend the Jack 8 offsuit there from the big blind. I think that's a spot you are going to want to be defending your big blind in quite a reasonable amount of the time. We have seen some interesting decisions from some of these guys in these post-flop situations, or pre-flop situations, I should say. Cummins, did he just fold pocket eights? Oh, he wasn't at the table. Manamad, 10-8 suited in the cutoff. Very reasonable open. Manamad's been pretty quiet recently. He's been a little bit card dead. Very reasonable 3-bet here from Bachu. He could have made it a little bit smaller off of his shorter stack size, but going 3x here in position is always going to be pretty reasonable. Manamad, 10-8 suited, cutoff versus button, is going to find a call with this hand a low frequency amount of the time. Let's just let this one go. Some big stacks getting built up on this feature table. I always do enjoy looking at those towers of chips. And it's always fun to see how players stack their chips. Do people make a little wall, like a one chip wide, big long wall going from the rail out towards the center of the felt? Do they sort of make more of a blockade like Cummins has in front of him? Similar to Lappin here, who is, of course, having conversations with the table. Cummins going to open the ace-10 off from under the gun. Pretty reasonable here, off of 80 big blinds. Lappin, pocket twos. Set mining here, not unreasonable. Whether or not he believes his table is squeezing enough will be a deciding factor, and he does let it go. Giving credit to the players who have position, believing that they will find some squeezes here. Shell getting pretty out of line here. Continuing pre-flop with 5-6 suited from under the gun +2. Off of his 28 big blinds. He's just going to have to let this one go. Cummins going to be checking this flop sometimes under the gun versus this +2 position. Not a unreasonable c-bet with his hand that wouldn't be able to continue facing a bet. Reasonable spot. Forces Adonis to open the button here with Queen 3 suited, but he does miss the spot and decides to fold. Stokes in the small blind with 5-6 off. Pretty reasonable spot for him to continue. Cummins not looking to isolate this one blind v blind, and we are going to go heads up to a flop. Pretty reasonable board for Stokes to stab with his 5-6, but blind v blind. We do see a lot of mistakes from these players. Blind v blind. Like, if you're going to limp from the small blind with the 5-6 off there, you're going to want to start betting on boards that favor your range. And two-tone boards, Broadway boards, all the kind of boards that when you limp and you don't get ISO'd by the big blind are going to be massively in your favour. A missed spot for the 5-6 to take that pot down on the flop. And then he just gives up on the turn. Blind v blind though, a very, very tricky spot. Arguably the hardest positions to play against each other at the table because ranges are so wide. So you cannot fault these players for missing some c-bets or missing some check raises or some even just some defends and calls. Lappin, slagging off live poker, I think. Can't quite catch what he's saying, but always great to have at the table. Always happy to say his opinion, always happy to let people know how he's feeling. One of the unfiltered voices, untainted voices in the poker community. Zydonis with a very speculative call, ace-8 offsuit, not going to be used too often as a call. Versus the hijack open, Stokes takes a nice squeeze spot, does decide to go all in. Fru, of course, going to have to fold this king-8 off. Also, a little bit too loose for my liking to open from the hijack. Even from the cutoff, the king-8 off is going to be borderline. And Zydonis and Fru lose a couple of chips that they probably could have held on to. Chef Brad definitely enjoying Lappin's table presence. I've seen some interesting plays, but today we are playing day 2 of the IPO main event. There is 39,000 euros for first place for anyone who is coming in late today to this commentary. We will be playing down to a final table today, with the final table being broadcast by yours truly, myself, tomorrow here on the Unibet Poker Twitch channel, also the International Poker Open website, and if you're a wee YouTuber, on the YouTube as well. Ace King for Bachu. 10s flatting from Zydonis. Off of 24 bigs. I do think this is a spot that you want to get 10s in pre-flop. Arguably a little bit tight, a little bit nitty from Zydonis, but it looks like he is going to save himself from some chips. Bachu, top. And a board you are going to be c-betting with a very high frequency versus this hijack flat. Zydonis, it would be a bit nitty to fold to one straight of betting here, but once he's just called 10s pre, it is going to be an interesting pot, to say the least. Bachu's hand improves to top 2, but it does complete the flush draws. Zydonis not containing any diamonds, but Bachu not seeming too worried. And the 10s of Zydonis will just be folding on this turn card. Stop moaning, Lappin. Get on with it. Oh, very funny. Alright, there we go. There we see the 10s fold. Bachu slowly rebuilding his stack. He did have north of 1 million chips at one point earlier today. Now just under 500,000. Still plenty at this 12k big blind and big blind ante level. What is Fru's first name, please? I could get that for you with absolute ease. Fru is Stephen Fru. Hopefully I didn't just dox him. And Lappin sort of up and about here. And Ahmed, 10-8 suited in the big blind, a lovely little hand here, 6-4 suited. Cummins coming in with a slightly loose open. Reasonable off of the stack depths though. A low frequency open here from Cummins. He is going to flop bottom pair to Manamed's top, or sorry, middle pair. Great commentary, by the way. Thank you very much, Hannah. I appreciate that. This is a board that we are going to see the cutoff c-bet sometimes. I would say that sort of 90 to 100% of their range should be c-betting this board. We have a lot of interaction. Sets, flush draws, open-enders, straights, overpairs. But 10-8 of hearts not going to be going anywhere just yet from the big blind, and he does make the correct call to this c-bet. I would like to see some leading on this turn from Manamed. Love how I construct ranges, thank you. Hey Whitey, we unfortunately do not have the Halloween Poker Pass. But we do have expert analysis of this feature table at the IPO 2022. And Cummins, I would love to see a big sizing on this turn. At least pot would be lovely. An overbet would be dreamy. 125k, please. Please. Instead, it looks like it's something in the range of about 75. 104k, okay, nice. He does almost bet pot. Nice one from Cummins, and a nice fold from Manamed there with the 10-8. Disciplined fold, not an unreasonable spot to get sticky there. Blocking both flush draws. An overbet would have been lovely, but I will take that pot size bet from Cummins. Then mix in some sort of 9-10 of clubs, 9-10 of diamonds hands. Of course, you can then also overbet top set. Doesn't need to be a 4, or I guess top boat. Lots of value, and then lots of hands that can gain value with an overbet on that turn card. Fru gonna flick some chips into the middle here with the ace-jack from early position. Pretty quick call from one of the looser and less conventional players at the table in seat 3. Round 2 the button, who I think also calls Badu in the big blind. Oh, here we go. So Stokes flooding the ace-queen off of 30 bigs. We don't know what Fru has. Shell flats. Oh, here we go. It's all kicking off now. Batu, good fold. We're going to go 3 ways to a pot. We're anti-sweating Fru. We have no idea what he's got in his hand. Stokes makes it pretty reasonable and disciplined. Just flat here with the ace-queen off. +2 versus under the gun, which I do actually quite like at these stack depths. Everybody has a bit of everything except for this flop. This is a board that I would like to see Fru check a reasonable amount of the time. If you construct the ranges, if the player's acting behind you, there's going to be a lot of pocket pairs. There's going to be a lot of hands that have flush draws, backdoor flush draws. Everyone's going to have overs to this board. Fru does have the most 4x for what it's worth. And a good fold from the ace-queen. Understands that his hand improves very poorly, but I'm surprised to see Shell fold to the 1 bet there. Fru does take that one down. How many left now, please? I would humbly guess that we have somewhere in the midst of about 48 players left, maybe 45, somewhere around there. I'm not sure on exact because I would only be able to give you the exact amount of players remaining at my moment of time, which isn't actually your guys' moment in time. It is, but it isn't. Spooky, I know. I'm giving you live commentary over a 30-minute delayed feed. So I can give you how many players are left 30 minutes in the future, which would actually be now in 30 minutes, while this is 30 minutes in the past. That's something to think about. Lappin, reasonable open here with ace-9 in the hijack.
Okay, all players, register for today's Chip Race Mystery Bounty currently starting in 3 minutes. We'd ask all players to please
Apologies if you hear me ruffling around in my bag. Gonna grab my phone charger so I can continue to chat to you lovely people on Twitch. Bachu calls in the small blind with Queen 5 offsuit. Huh. I don't really know what just happened. Lappin opened. Bachu gets incredibly out of line. Like, incredibly out of line if that's Queen 5 off. And then the 10-6 off squeeze from the big blind. Alright, gangster poker apparently. It's all kicking off on the feature table. Lappin being forced to fold a few hands in a row here. And he has a 3D chip stack of a very phallic looking object. There we go, that fixes it, that nice little piece at the side. High level analysis you guys are getting today. Fru completes the small blind with 7-8 off, Sidonis 20 big blinds effective. Looks like he makes just shy of a 3x raise. 7-8, not an unreasonable hand to continue with here. And it looks like we're going to be sweating with Fru. 7-8 offsuit here. Ace, Queen 3, a great board for Sidonis' range. Fru is going to have some limp calls with some suited Queen X, some offsuit Ace X, maybe even pocket 3s. But realistically here, this is a great board for Sidonis' raising range. I would like to see a c-bet in the midst of about 20k. No more than sort of 25 to 30k, but Fru getting extraordinarily out of line with 7-8 off. Fru is absolutely feeling it right now. And he is just, that is just so out of line. Sidonis all in. Fru, look at him, he raises his eyebrows. He's gonna have to fold. I don't know if he knows what his hand is. Why is he asking for a count? My boy, you've got 7-8 offsuit on Ace, King, Queen 3. This is just wasting time. This is the part of live poker that I hate to see. Fru gets out of line, tries to make it look like that he has a decision on his hands. But he has 7-8 offsuit. Just fold, man. Stop slowing up the game. Wasting for a count. He's going to have a think. 18, what is it? Oh, how much more? Unless the graphic is wrong. I doubt it is. Fru just wasting time, slowing down play on the table. It's very unnecessary play. I mean, the graphic, maybe the RFID is wrong, but Making Zydona sweat for no reason. Like, yeah, do it for 5 seconds, do it for 10 seconds. Don't use 60 seconds of your tablemate's time with 7-8 off. The cameras are on, like, we all know what you have. Lappin asked did he have ace-3, which is a pretty reasonable hand to put inside of Fru's range. No, Fru had 7-8 off, Lappin. And he was wasting your time. Fru's done some strange things on this feature table, but he has not been massively out of line. Except for spots like this. Unless, I don't know, maybe the RFID was wrong, but I highly, highly doubt it. I think he was just... he'd realised he'd been caught. Lappin's at the table and thought Fru might have folded ace-3, yeah. Well, no, he asked, did you fold ace-3? And Fru said no, but I think he asked him that because it's a very reasonable hand to put in Fru's range. And it would be a tough decision because you are facing ace-king, ace-queen, kings, queens. Lappin will go mental when he finds out. I could text him right now and be like, by the way, do you remember that hand you thought your tablemate for ace-3? Which he won't remember it. He won't remember it because he wasn't involved in the hand. And rightly so. Cummins, very reasonable hand to open with. And Lappin with the ace-jack off is going to be a hand that he can actually use as a 3-bet here. You would much rather play the ace-jack as a 3-bet than a flat call off of these stack depths. Jackie7 says, Fru confirmed cringe. I do agree. +1. All right, Lappin. I think we are going to see the 3-bet here with the ace-jack. He does fold. It's going to go either way. Maybe he had a way of randomizing in his head. Maybe he had a way of mixing. Half the time I'm going to 3-bet, half the time I'm going to fold. Does decide this time to fold. Don't really know what the crack is that we're hearing clapping for. Maybe some people satellited something, or I don't know. Stokes, pocket eights. Not an unreasonable spot to go all in, but I do think it would be a little bit on the looser side. Cummins flops the best of it though. And Stokes not going to be continuing on this flop, or at least he shouldn't with pocket eights, I don't think. Cummins, 20k would do the job. Looks like maybe 26 there. No, he does go 20k. Nice bet, nice bet. Lapping, asking the serious questions if everybody has a day off tomorrow. Move pieces, I like it to be honest, at least as a one-off. Very strange this table play. What is the buy-in? This is a €300 International Poker Open Day 2 main event. 39,000 euros for first, 807? 800 and a few total entries into this live tournament. It's been a busy weekend for all involved, and the weekend is not done. There is the chip race mystery bounty today. There is the 550 high roller. And here we have Shell opening early position with ace queen. Stokes, not an unreasonable call in the small blind with king queen, and Cummins going to come along here with his 1 million chip stack, 10-8 offsuit in the big blind. Actually has some of the best of it, the 10-8 here. The flop, not great for anyone. Shell, however, holding the ace of hearts in his hand, does have a pretty easy c-bet, but that is an absolutely disgustingly ridiculous c-bet size. Puts in 60k, puts in a quarter of a stack with ace high. Doesn't even have the flush draw. Yes, he blocks continuations, but it's just not necessary. We've seen a lot of this. We've seen a lot of huge betting with absolute garbage. People using their bluffs with huge bets. And it looks like we might have a chip race. Or maybe the floor is just buying up some of those 1k chips. Wouldn't see too much of this in a 1k plus. No, I do agree. You wouldn't see too much of this in a 1k. Bachu, very standard open here with the king jack suited. Cummins should fold the ace-9 here in the small blind. Lapping pocket jacks in the big blind. Don't know if he's checked his hand yet. Don't know if he sees the magic that is beneath those fingertips. Cummins. Wait, Fru has called the hijack with queen 3 offsuit. And we see a squeeze from Cummins over Bachu's open. I have no idea what Fru is doing on this feature table, but he is getting very, very, very out of line. It opened up the squeeze in the small blind from Cummins. And Lappin has a decision. 45 big blinds. Pocket jacks. My most humble opinion, he has one decision only, and that decision is all in. He's just going to work out how many chips do I have, how many big blinds do I have. Of course we can see his stack size, but I think all in is the only play here. 445 bigs, he is wondering, yeah. Jacks, too strong. And it's going to work, and he's going to pick up 164k of uncontested chips. I like Lappin making the decision, thinking through it. Thinking through all the possibilities, all the options. What is his stack size? What are his opponent's stack sizes? What are the ranges here? But it is a really nice spot for Lappin to just stick it in the middle. Go all in. Jam it in. I'm sitting back in my chair. I'm relaxed. I think we all know what Lappin's going to do here. I think Lappin knows what he's going to do here. He just can't quite believe that he has to do it. Deep in the main event. 5% of the field remaining. Maybe even fewer at this stage of the day. And a very reasonable 4-bet jam from the pocket jacks. He knows Bachu doesn't get really out of line in early position. Can't get fed information that Fru is getting out of line, and Cummings has made some interesting plays too, but jacks, it's just going to be a jam. He could fold. There is a world in which Lappin just lets this go, but I would be very surprised. And he does actually fold. Wow, I do think there is a world in which folding is not unreasonable, depending on the ranges you're giving these players. But that is a tight, tight fold from David Lappin in the big blind. And he's going to hate that this goes fold, fold so quickly. He's going to wish that he shoved. Cummins knowing that he got away with one. Knowing that he got away with one. Very lightly. And Lappin makes a big fold. 45 big blinds. I think he just said too big to the small blind. Lapping tight. But the thing is, you have to think about it. Deep in these tournaments, there is a thing, it's called edge passing. And it's where you think that you do have an edge over the field. So if you have marginal spots, you can actually avoid these marginal spots, even if they are getting a little bit of EV. Just knowing that you do have a significant post-flop edge versus a lot of the field deep in these main events. And I think if we asked Lappin in person, that would have just been him thinking it was just a reasonable edge pass. He still had the early position player to get through. The small blind, people notoriously don't squeeze enough, particularly in live events. It's not like he could have known the ace-9 off was going to get used as a squeeze. So it could have just been an edge pass of a more marginal spot. If he had 30 big blinds, 35 big blinds, I have no doubt that he would have just put it in. But playing that 45 big blind stack, but Fru has started getting pretty out of line here on this feature table. But that was a big fold from Lappin with the pocket jacks. Fold of the day so far. Not necessarily correct, but a big fold. Maybe he thinks Fru is tight because the Hollywooding. I mean, yeah, he might actually have the opposite image of Fru. He has the early position, 30 big blind stack to get through. He has Fru calling on the button. He has a big stack squeezing on his right, but again, people just don't squeeze enough online or live. He can't know that ace-9 off was being used by the opponent on his right. Not easy. All the same. Sidonis. Big hand. Very, very comfortable open here. Blinds up to 8-16. Does actually make Lappin's effective stack that little bit shorter. Lappin now playing 30 big blinds effective with that blind increase. Batu 6-3 off. Not going to come along here, I don't think, particularly often. It does look like he is reaching for chips, though. And this flop, believe it or not, is all shell. Shell has been pretty loose post-flop, or pre-flop, sorry. And when you're gonna flat king 6 suited on the button here versus that early position open, I do think I actually prefer a check back on king jack 4. You have the protection of the backdoor flush draw. You can pot control and keep your range uncapped by having top pair in your check back range on a flop like this. Sidonis overcard, gut shot to the nuts in the backdoor flush draw. It would be very tight to fold here. The only thing being is that was quite a large c-bet, or sorry, quite a large flop bet from Shell multi-way, and it may actually take Sidonis off this pot with the ace-queen of clubs. Hello Hamish, welcome to the chat. I do think you should call here, but it is a slightly larger sizing. It is a very nice bet of 69,000. And Sidonis looks almost confused at this sizing. Shell talking and laughing with his friends, I think, across the rail. It looks like we're going to see a call here from Sidonis. Are those? No, they're not raising chips, right? Look like calling chips to me. And I do like this call from Sidonis. Very bricky turn for both players. And again, does Shell really want to go? Okay. Shell lucky that Sidonis doesn't have the top of his range here, but he plays a very interesting, very quick, very aggressive style of poker. I'm not the biggest fan of that turn jam. You're only ever getting called by better hands. What are you trying to fold out? Ace Queen of Hearts? You're already miles ahead. And some unreasonable, or at least not theoretical play happening in this main event. It was expected, especially when we saw how people were playing on day one of this event. Lappin, ace queen, 30 big blinds here. Gonna open up from the hijack. Being quite quiet at our feature table. In the poker sense, not vocally, of course. Round two, the big blind. Fru, a very defendable hand here, 10-4 suited in the big blind. We know how Fru's playing. What? Fru! You can't call Queen 5 off on the button versus an early position open and fold 10-4 suited. Heads up versus a middle position open in the big blind. My man. Playing the wrong hands at the wrong times, my friend. The wrong hands at the wrong time. 10-4 suited, going to be a very simple defend there from the big blind, especially in a heads-up pot. Maybe he's just scared of playing post-flop versus Lappin. Maybe he doesn't want to get drawn into conversation with him, I don't know. Whatever his excuse is, it's not a good enough one because they're here to play poker. And 10-4 suited should be a call there. Stokes and Cummins should both find the fold here. Lappin letting it go as well. Round two, Shell, who does make some interesting plays, but he has a very reasonable hand, pocket fives. See a raise from the hijack. Sidonis now down to 11 to 12 big blinds. Hey, you guys will hear that through the tannoy. The chip race mystery bounty has begun in real time, but for you guys in the stream it begins in 10 minutes. mystery bounties. A lot of fun, very fun format, very exciting for a lot of people. I've played a few, pulled a few mystery bounties. Only ever pulled the minimum, unfortunately. But the excitement is very, very real. Does mean you can bust the main, jump into the mystery. We have roughly, I think, about 40 players left in the main event. I could be wrong, but I think there's about 40 players left in the main. 40, maybe like 38 players. Almost down to those final, well, we're on the 40 players left as well, final 5 tables. Loses that stack, loses before the spelling police arrive. Alright, Shell getting extraordinarily out of line and opening King 8 offsuit from under the gun +2. And he is going to take this one down pre-flop, but we have some pretty wide ranges being constructed by these players at the table, and if some of the better players at the table, Lapin, at least from what I've seen, I would assume that sort of Lapin, Monamid, and Bachu, these better players at the table would be able to take advantage of these looser openings, looser 3-bets from these players had they been given the information. But of course, they do not have access to their phones right now. They do not have access to smartwatches. They do not have access to communication from the outside world. Ooh. Otherwise, I do believe that we would see some slightly different adjustments from some of these better players, these more experienced professionals, if they knew what these lads were getting up to. Folds round, and then free folding Queen 9 from the cutoff. I don't really understand when Fru decides to play hands. I do this with a very reasonable shove here, and it's going to get through. Queen 9 off, a very reasonable open from the cutoff. You're going to want to be opening your offsuit 9x from the cutoff, your offsuit 8x from the button. From the vast majority of your stack depths, you can start to bring in and remove some hands at varying stack depths. But those are sort of general guidelines that you can follow when you're looking at your opening ranges. Of course, your suited hands having much more playability, so being able to open sort of like your Queen 8, your Queen 7, your Queen 6 suiteds, 40, 50 big blinds deep from the cutoff there. Bachu, Queen 10 suited. Whoa! Oh. I mean, I don't mind the fold, but he's playing 18 big blinds. I think that probably should be an open. You do need to find spots to pick up chips. You're not on an FT bubble. Gotta play Queen 10 suited there. Even watching sort of EPT coverage, you'll see all those better players knowing that Queen 10 suited is just a very standard open there, even as shallow as about 16 big blinds. Just a very playable hand. Very nice hand to play post-flop. Lapin folding King 5 to Fru. Again, a defendable hand from Lapin, but deciding to miss that one. King 5 off, towards the bottom of your offsuit defending King X to a cutoff or a hijack open. Especially around sort of 30 big blinds effective. It is also the kind of hand you can start to use as a 3-bet at these shallower stack depths. Is your sort of King 4, your King 5s. You're using that to duplicate your pocket kings. It's for the same reason that whenever you're deeper stacked, you start to use sort of Ace 4, Ace 5 suited as your 3-bet bluffs. Ace 4 suited as your 5-bet bluffs, if you have them. Not necessarily advisable, but you know, as far as the charts go. Fru, King, Queen. He almost threw away his chips earlier, but a very reasonable spot to put some in the middle. Sidonis going to fight in the folds here with the Ace 4. Holds round, 2 lapping in the small. And Shell will defend in the big blind with 8-9. Shell is possibly the fastest live poker player I've ever seen in my life. He puts chips in at the speed of light. He wants the game to fly by. He wants to get hands in. And that is an action flop for both players. Both players holding a heart. Both players picking up the open-ender. And Fru checking back. It's just not a good check back from Fru. Open-ender, 2 overcards, Queen of Hearts. Great spot to see bet that flop versus the big blind from early position. It's just not a board you're going to check back on. He has the King of Clubs. Like, this is the perfect bet from King Queen. Of course, Shell betting turn, Fru going nowhere. But some very strange pre and post flop decisions from some of the players at this feature table. Fru binks on the river. Shell should slow down. Wait, what? It sounded like he said all in, which won't be true. But he bets 100k. Like, why? For what reason? What hand are you representing? It just doesn't make sense. There's just no logic behind that bet with 8-9. And Fru slow rolls a little bit there with the King Queen. I don't understand why. Why did you bet that on the river? Shell with some very interesting post-flop play. Like, was it a value bet? Was he turning his hand into a bluff? Was it a value bluff? That well-known piece of poker terminology. Stokes gonna be all in here with the Ace King. Cummins. Ace Jack. I would want to count here if I was in Cummins' shoes. Oh, I shouldn't laugh. How much was the buy-in for this event? This is a €300 buy-in. 39,000 for first. 103 places were paid. 807 total runners. And 240k. There's 15 big blinds, and that is 15 big blinds too many for me to put in chips with Ace Jack here. If this was a 10 big blind shove, an 11 big blind shove, maybe a 12 big blind shove, you can start to get in with the Ace Jack offsuit. 15 is a few too many, but Cummins looks like he's counting out these chips, he's counting out these calling chips, and with all these players to act behind, it's a 15 big blind shove. I think it's a little bit unreasonable to come over the top with Ace Jack. But that's exactly what he's going to do. He just moves over the top, and he's going to get shown the bad news, and I think it's just too many chips. Stokes, slow rolls, showing his hand. And I thought that was just a little bit too many chips for Ace Jack. Alright, I guess I'm going to retire from poker, because Cummins clearly knew that that Jack was coming on the flop. Ace King potentially getting bad beaten. Stokes out of the tournament. Yes, sir. Alright. Wow. Ooh, I thought he was going to get the really cringe no handshake, but Cummins, 1.3 million chips, 30k starting stack. But Cummins knows he gets lucky. Stokes busting just before their dinner break. Half an hour, I think, until dinner break for these players at the feature table. Pachu is one of our local boys, runs a wee poker league. His only mistake, I think, was Hero calling the ace-king. He didn't have a diamond in his hand, which did make it a little bit like a closer call, but if you think of the calling range in that 3-bet pot versus Cummins, you are going to come to the conclusion that what hands does Cummins really have to bluff here? And it was essentially just ace-queen of diamonds and maybe ace-4 of diamonds, or like a suited ace that got light pre-flop calling in position that then turned their hand into a bluff. Missing the queen 10 suited open wasn't a disaster for Bachu, but this is a nice spot to go all in versus a button open. Instead, Bachu just decides to defend. I do think using king jack off as a shove is going to be more profitable than just calling. You're going to want, when you're on your shorter stack, to call with hands that play a little bit better post-flop. You're going to want to have suited playability. These offsuit combinations are going to prefer, and that's a bit of a light fold as well. 2 of our cards, the king of clubs. I don't know what sizing Shell chose when he bet the flop though. If it was a big bet, 20k, just 1 point, essentially 1 big blind, I think that's a little bit loose from Bachu to fold with the king jack and the king of clubs. I would have liked to have seen an all-in pre-flop from Bachu off of that sort of 14, 15 big blind stack. The button's range is really wide. Never mind Shell's range, which of course Bachu can't know. But versus a button range, shoving that king jack offsuit is going to be very, very profitable. Even when you get called, it's going to be a lot of like ace 9, ace 8 hands that you're effectively flipping against. But no blunders, definitely some solid play coming out from a few of these players at the table, namely Bachu, Lapin, and no Mohammed. All right, Lapin. King Queen, a real hand. Mohammed, Queen 7 suited, not an unreasonable call from the button here. But you would start to rather use hands like Queen 8, Queen 9, Queen 10, Queen 7, I think a little bit outside of his flatting range. Button versus hijack, 40 big blinds, not even 30 big blinds effective. I can have a quick check, but woo! Lapin's in for a double up, boys. Mohammed is going to be going home soon by the looks of it. That is a flop from hell for the Queen 7 suited. 8-9 even has a gut shot. Lapin, I would love to see him bet like 30k here. $37. All right. I was close. Yeah, the button's range here, far too loose from the Queen 7 suited of Mohammed, and there is the 10 on the turn. Wow, 8-9 would have made the straight. Of course, never coming along. But it actually looks like all the chips might not be getting in here. That's a very scary run out for both players. Lapin, if he bets and gets shoved on, he actually might fold. He doesn't have a heart in his hand. Mohammed is going to have a lot of queen jacks, queen 10s, and backdoor flush draws. Not many backdoor flush draws, mind you. But I would like to see a value bet come out from Lapin here, unless he wanted to go for the check raise, but not advisable on a board texture like this. Lappin having a thing, but yeah, this Queen 7 suited flat from the button. Definitely very, very light. About a clear value bet here for Lappin. Once the turn goes, check, check. And he is reaching for chips. And he does get called. Lappin picks up a nice pot there. Doesn't get it all. Trips over trips, but on that run out, it's always going to be difficult. But here joining me in the booth right now is one of Lappin's counterparts, Mr. Dara O'Kearney. Hello, Dara.
Hello, Tom. Nice to see you.
How are you getting on? You've just missed Lappin. Pick up a nice little pot there.
Yeah, I heard he was on the feature table. I busted a few hours ago and I went off for a run and came back to have dinner with my wife. But he's good to see he's going well. He was very depressed yesterday after his bubble in the high roller, so much happier Lappin today.
He is a happier Lappin. However, he did make a, I don't know whether you could say incorrect hero fold. He made quite a tight fold. There was an early position open, Badu off of 28 big blinds in under the gun +1. The button flatted and the small blind 3-bet. Lappin wakes up with jacks and 40 big blinds, well, 42.5 big blinds with the blind level increasing in just a few minutes with pocket jacks. After quite a lot of deliberation, he did let it go.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely on the tight side. I think that's not a fold he'd make in an EPT, but like a lot of players, he takes a more low variance approach to something like an IPO than he would a higher buy-in tournament, purely because he feels there'll be spots where it's clearer that he has a significant advantage.
So it's very interesting that you say that, because that is the justification that I also worked out. Whenever I saw that Lappin had made the fold, I made the chat aware of a thing called edge passing, and it's when you do believe that you might have an edge in the field over the players, and especially a lower buy-in like this, where we are seeing players make some pretty impressive, I guess you could say, plays, but not necessarily theoretical.
Yeah, I think someone like Phil Hellman, for example, who's probably the master of exploiting weaker live players, he very much does that. His whole style is based around passing fairly close edges, recognizing that you get much clearer spots.
And it ended up working out for him, and we have just seen Lappin work his way up to just over 700,000 chips, which at this big blind level is good for almost 50 big blinds. It's been an interesting table. Now that you've joined me in commentary, I can let you know that this player in the small blind, in seat 1, Fru, has been quite the character. Some interesting bluffs, turning hands that have clear showdown value into bluffs. He has been making some interesting plays, and as you can see here, he is, well, it is a very small pot. He is shoving bottom pair though for, I guess, value versus Zydonis in the big blind.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, I was talking briefly to David, and he said there was one player that he was struggling to get a read on it, and I suspect it might be this gentleman then.
There's definitely a chance it's Fru, but there is also a player to Lappin's direct left on this table who I would be surprised if he has played much poker prior to this event.
Okay. With
some very interesting lines, sizings, and hand choice pre-flop. But it is making for some great content for sure.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't see Zydonis' hand, but it does look like he's thinking here. Taking such a large amount of time makes me believe he may have a 9 in his hand. And if he knew how Fru was playing, it would be the cleanest call in the world. But he does let it go, and I guess we're just not going to know what he folded, leaving himself with 9 big blinds behind. And Fru picks up a small pot, but a very interesting shove on that turn.
Yeah.
Will you be jumping into the chip race mystery bounty then this evening?
Potentially. My next plan is to late reg the Leslie McLean high roller.
Ah, yes, the 550.
They're on a dinner break at the moment, and I can come in just after dinner. And I'll still have 30 or 40 big blinds, I think. And then if that doesn't go to plan, I'll certainly be in the mystery bounty, which you can also late reg. So.
Oh, lovely. Well, there's
lots of time to do
plenty.
That. Yeah.
Plenty of events to jump into. Very exciting times here on this Sunday at the Bonington Hotel. If you guys are looking to come down, this main event that you see on your screens is not the only event that you have available. There is this 550 Leslie McLean high roller. There is also the 270 chip race mystery bounty.
Two something. Yeah.
Two something.
I really should know the details. but
So
yeah,
should I.
It's in that area.
The two something in the area mystery bounty, which everybody loves a mystery bounty format, especially if you make day 2, which is tomorrow. And I think there is there's a PLO event, a double chance.
Correct.
120 PLO event potentially. And some action. Batu, Twitch chat favorite, waking up with Ace King. Monamid has been playing very well. Does 3-bet shove the Ace Queen over Lappin's open from early position. And it does look like Monamid is going to be in some dangerous shape. A couple of kings, a couple of queens folded. Not many clubs folded, so at the very least Monamid might have that working for him.
Yeah.
But this is a great spot for a double up for Batu and Monamid, even though he did dodge the bullet of trips over trips on the flop.
Indeed, yeah. 3-1 favourite here. Great spot for him. We saw Lappin's open there with Queen 10 suit early position. That was obviously very standard, but as soon as that action happens, your Queen 10 is not something you even have to think about.
No, and Lappin knows himself. He's folded a queen. Of course, he's not going to tell the table that. He doesn't want to crush the dreams of Monamid, but they do indeed swap each other's outs. A king folded as well, though. Oh, that is a brutal turn. With one king folded, there were only 2 left in the deck. Batu needs a queen to chop this one, and he is covered and eliminated from the tournament. That is a horrific beat, especially if he knows that those outs have been folded.
Yeah.
Batu over 1 million chips at one point in this tournament, and unfortunately he had a hero call gone wrong. I think he then lost a flip, a couple of raised folds, and before you know it, you're short in a tournament like this. Batu, GG.
Oh, I know Namir, that player. Just won that.
Yes, Namir Monamid.
Yeah, he's. I believe he's originally Iraqi, but he's been living in Ireland for 20 years now. He's a doctor, very good player as well.
He has been playing very well.
Yeah, he certainly knows what he's doing. Regular of the Fitzwilliam, which was the main card club that I used to play back in the day. Yeah, and a very, very nice gentleman as well. Great to see him get a run.
For sure. Definitely at this table, something that I had noted earlier to those watching at home is the people to watch out on this table have been Lappin, and I actually was not aware of Monamid or who he was, but instantly from the way he was playing, his sizings, his range, his construction of his range and his choice of hands, he was definitely one of those players you need to look out for. And it was similar with Jamie, otherwise known as Budu, and he just unfortunately ran into it there. He got bad beat. It's going to happen in these big fields.
I think we actually have his name wrong, yeah. His name's Namir Mohammed, not
Namir
Monamid.
Mohammed. So it is written down wrong on the text.
Yeah, he's originally from Mosul in Iraq, but he studied medicine at the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, and I know he works at a fairly nearby hospital, actually.
So it's not Monamid, it's Mohammed.
Mohammed, correct.
Ah, so it's just the N has been switched for the H. It does make more sense, because every
It
time
does,
I
yeah.
read it, I'd go, I've never heard a surname like this before.
Yeah, that's why when I saw Mohammed, it was never occurring to me, because I know
Who is
Namir
that
quite
person
well.
until you saw his face.
But then as soon as I was pretty sure that's Namir. Shout out to Brad in the chat, Brad Simpson. Always a very friendly presence on Twitch.
And here we see the limp in the hijack from Mohammed with the pocket fives. Not something that you would see as particularly common at this sort of 40 to 50 big blind stack depth. Lappin getting a free flop with the 5-6, and Cummins completed his small blind with the Queen 9. A little bit of everything for everyone here.
Yeah.
But Cummins with the clear favourite hand, and definitely a pretty clear lead here. He may not have a heart in his hand, but in a limped pot, top pair is going to be good a lot of the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Lappin did make a wonderful 2-bet bluff squeeze on a turn with Queen Jack on a King 6 Deuce King board. The backdoor flush draw came in after the flop check through in a 4-way pot, and he found a lovely squeeze versus a small blind lead and a big blind bet on the turn.
Indeed.
And that is sort of what propelled him up to his chip stack now before winning that trips versus trips against Mohammed. The fives finding a hero call on the turn, but unless they're going to turn their hand into a bluff, there is no way they win this, and something tells me that Cummins wouldn't fold to a raise on this river card.
No. Yeah, Emir might think he's been outdrawn here now. I guess he could also think maybe something like Jack 10 or a hand with a heart might have just bluffed the turn.
Oh, for sure, and then he could maybe think about raising river.
Yeah.
But once it's a limped pot, I guess you do have to understand that the big blind's range, or the small blind's range, is still going to be a lot of cards.
Yeah, super wide. It's one of the problems with limping. The ranges are not as clearly defined.
And unfortunately for Dara and I, we do have the stream buffering for us. So you guys will actually be able to see before we can what is going on.
Have we lost internet?
I wonder, have we lost internet? Can anyone in Twitch chat see us? Test, test, test. Hello, hello, hello. Test. Okay, my message sent in the chat. However, we cannot see what is going on this feature table of the IPO.
Okay, I think I'm getting it on my phone.
So it could just be still going for us. It is all good for Twitch, so yeah, we'll get it up on our phones while it buffers here on our laptop. Dara will be here to save the day, unless I don't get ads.
I'm getting ads. Okay, there we go. Okay, we still don't know what happened.
Okay, we don't know what happened. It looked like Cummins won the pot, so maybe Mohammed did just check back.
Yeah, seems like.
And now I have the ads.
Yeah. Shout out to Deirdre Hayden in the chat as well. I hope you're doing well, Dee.
And unfortunately, Dara and I are going to have to watch on tiny little screens for the next 15 minutes or so.
Okay, let me see if I can at least get my iPad.
Aha, here we go. Exciting times. It looks like we have Mohammed in under the gun with ace-9 off. Coming in with the open, a little bit on the looser side. I guess we are only playing 6 or 7-handed at this table. Lappin in the small blind with king-queen. A pretty reasonable flat here off 40 big blinds with the king-queen offsuit. He is considering his options and wondering, is Mohammed getting a little bit out of line? And does the 3-bet come in from the king-queen? Wow, he folds.
Yeah. That's
Definitely on the tighter side.
It's on the tighter side. Against, I mean, they're short-handed, so yeah, under the gun is really only the
I think he shows the ace and smiles at Lappin.
hijack. Yeah.
But I am surprised to not see at least a completion there from Lappin. But he has been playing very solid, making sure he hasn't been getting himself out of line so far today. But you guys can still hear us through the stream, which is great, because we can't actually see what's going on, except for on our phones and iPads.
We can see it on our phone and our iPad.
I'll see if I can fix it on this end. Let's have a look.
I think we're not too long off
Dinner break
anyway.
anyway. Which, if there's any time for something to go wrong, whenever no poker's being played, is a fantastic time for that to occur.
I think Lappin will be pining for dinner break because he skipped breakfast this morning, so I can imagine he's pretty hungry.
Maybe skipping breakfast was the only way he could win chips.
And when I say skipping breakfast, I mean he was comatose.
Oh. I clicked a button. Whether or not it was the correct button, it looks like it was not. No, it looks like we're now getting a music video. I can fix this though, it's okay.
Okay, so Fru has raised with the ace-queen suited.
Wow, Fru actually has a real hand. That is
and
quite surprising.
Namir defends the jack-8. Flop 7-2-2, so this is a complete whiff flop that both players will have missed almost always. Bet small here. just targeting all the whiffs to fold. And yeah, he has gone for a small bet, which should get the job done a lot of the time. Now, Namir does have 2 overs, and he has backdoor straight draw, specifically 9-10, so he might decide to continue, because this is just such a difficult board to hit.
And he does decide to go for the check raise,
Yeah.
which I do think is quite exciting. It's definitely the way that you would want to continue this hand.
Yeah, most of your value would want to check raise on this board. If you had the 7, it's a very vulnerable top pair. And, yeah. Good play, Namir. Picks up the pot with the worst hand.
I guess we will just have to get this sorted out on our next break, but that is okay because it is only a few minutes away.
Yeah. David quite chatty at the table. David's very much a creature of how he's going when he's short stacked. He tends to be fairly miserable and sullen. So the very fact he's chatting tells me he's happy with the way the day's going so far. And he's almost, yeah, well, he has 4 or 5 times what he started the day with, so not surprising. Myself and Dara Dave used to play a game where we would observe David from a distance as a break was coming up, and we would both predict how many chips he had based on how animated he was. And we generally got it very close.
It's very exciting to have a happy Lappin on your table.
Yeah.
Because he does provide
It's
good
also exciting to
commentary.
have
an angry Lappin.
angry Lappin. It works either way.
I had an angry Lappin on one of my events once, and I think he was maybe 3 or 4 out on the river, and he just refused to leave his seat. He was just like, no, I don't think that's fair. I paid 100, whatever, or X amount of euros to play this tournament, so I'm going to sit here for at least 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
And the floor were like, actually, you know what? No one's coming to this seat, so we'll let you sit there for a couple of minutes more. And through with another real hand, King Queen. Like he is going to see a flop versus Shell's open. Shell has been a bit of a wild card on this table. But it does look like the players are getting the floor over. I'm not too sure what has happened. A little bit of drama on our feature table today.
Yeah, you saw the dealer calling for the floor there, so it's not clear at all what happened.
Maybe Shell didn't raise the correct sizing or something. It's kind of hard to tell.
I'm not in the hand, so I think it's better.
And here comes the floor. It does look like it is an action from Shell, who we do believe, at least in my opinion, is likely to be a newer player. Just with some of the hands he's been playing, some of the sizings he's been taking, just some very, very large c-bet sizings, with and without value, and not necessarily on the correct board textures. So maybe that was just maybe he just missized his pre-flop raise and wanted to go bigger. But Queen 8 suited, a very real hand to open on the button.
Yeah, absolutely.
King Queen in the big blind, going to be a very reasonable defend here, especially off of sort of 30 big blinds effective 2 through. But the player's looking a little bit anxious, not too sure what's going on.
Nope. Okay. Exactly what happened was, as this guy was looking down the
David, of course, is getting involved. You can see him there on the screen.
He was up and down out of his chair quite a lot earlier today, but making sure he could chat to people and get his social media sorted out. Definitely a great character to have at your table.
I agree. I don't know what I saw.
Hi Lee, great to see you in the Twitch chat too while we wait to figure out what's happening here. Looks like we have 2 floor people there now.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah, you don't see that very often.
But yes, the players will be going on dinner break in just a few moments. I hope you guys have enjoyed this IPO coverage by myself and currently joined by Dara O'Kearney. For those who have just joined the stream, this is the International Poker Open being held in the Bonington Hotel in Dublin. This is a €300 main event buy-in with 39,000 euros for first. Yesterday we had coverage of the day 2 super high roller, which had 19,000 euros for first and a lovely little trophy. If you're looking to make your way down to the Bonington or need any convincing, the room is always packed. Plenty of banter going around and loads of tournaments too. We have a mystery bounty today going on, sponsored by the chip race.
Indeed, yeah. And I just want to say as well, I've got lots of comments from people saying how much they're enjoying the stream and what a great job you're doing, Tom.
Oh, thank you.
Which is an enormous relief to me because I actually recommended you for this job.
Yeah.
So if you turned out to be absolutely terrible, it would have reflected very badly on me.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't have been the smoothest transition, but somehow this pot is no bigger than it should be when both players have top pair. And it seems that Fru sometimes seems a little bit scared to bet for value whenever he does actually have a clear value hand, and he just goes very, very large with his bluffs. It could be a tell, it could be something that people need to notice.
Yeah. Yeah, people pick up on that. That obviously becomes super exploitable. You do get that sometimes. When they want you to fold, they bet really big, and when they want you to call, they bet really small.
It does provide some insight, especially because a lot of these things happening at these tables have been, that a lot of people say is very exploitable. And if the likes of David Lappin and the other lads at the table had access to their phones, had access to friends on the rail who knew this information, it would provide quite a large edge to the better players who know how to adapt their ranges to exploit these players.
Yeah. Yeah, a player like David will obviously pick up on the fact that if somebody's using very unorthodox sizings, and he'll be very interested to try and find out if there's any correlation between different sizes and different hand strengths.
And that's definitely one of the things that you guys should be looking to do yourselves, not just in live poker, but also online. Try and figure out, if you're playing against people regularly, why are they doing this? Because it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, but if you can then try and figure out why they're doing it, you can get a better understanding on how you can adapt yourself to it, rather than just going, oh, that's big, that's scary. You know, try and take a look at it and take it from a different approach.
Yeah.
It does seem like we're going to have a few more hands before these players go off onto their dinner break. But it has been a lot of fun having David Lappin on our feature table here. Definitely great for the crowd, great for you guys to see someone who you know can at least play a little bit of poker.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not the rumors are not true. He's not just a washed up content creator these days. Can actually play.
But it does look like chip racks being brought over to the feature table. So this may be their last hand before the dinner break, and we may be getting a new feature table.
Does look that way, yeah.
I'm not too sure what other big names are left in this tournament, as I am stuck in my little black box.
Dara Davy is still in for sure.
Dara Davy.
A few local characters as well. Carl, I don't know his second name, so that's not very helpful. But I met him as I came in. He told me he had 800k. I think Richie O'Neill might still be in as well.
I wonder if Paul Carr with his monstrous stack
Paul.
is still in.
I assume Paul is. Yeah, if we get Paul on the table, that would be very entertaining.
Yes, he knows how to play some loose poker.
Yeah. When I bust, he was sharing a table with Simon Wilson, who was on the high roller. Simon actually came through the online leg as chip leader from that leg, so he had a decent stack as well. But I don't know if they're still in.
Looks like Lappin here with potentially. Nope, never mind. Not an opening hand. My little tiny phone screen not being much use to me. But thankfully, Dara ever prepared with his iPad. And a little bit of blind v blind play I would like to see. Sidonis here actually Very reasonable all in here with
Ver-
Queen 6.
Very reasonable all in, yeah. It's for
Only about 7 or 8
7
big
or 8 big
blinds.
blinds. Once you got a
And
face card,
ooh, quite the tight fold from Zydonis.
tight.
He has been seen to make a couple of these folds, both pre-flop and post-flop. But people do value their tournament life. People do realize they are day 2 of a main event.
Yeah,
It could be the biggest spot they've ever had.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. You kind of just have to recognise that Queen 6 is a well above average hand there, and most of the time you're actually folding the best hand if you fold that. And when you only have 7 big blinds, if you shove and get it through, you've added 33% to your stack. So you just kind of have to take those spots.
Yeah, fantastic way to look at it as well. Realizing that it's not just a big blind or two. If you look at it in terms of your stack size,
Yeah.
especially with the big blind anti-short-handed. Darren and I were talking about this yesterday, or maybe it was 2 days ago, but it is very important when you're a short stack short-handed, you've got to start winning some of these pots. Try and take down some of these pots uncontested. Shell, 20 big blinds, king, queen, very reasonable open here.
Yeah, absolutely. Mohammed has the 8-7 suited, which is a tempting hand, but he's folded it. We have the Ace-Jack suited.
For
The
Fru, who's
cutoff.
really picking up some hands here. I think
Yeah.
a call is one of the more reasonable options here. I don't think 3-betting achieves too much with a hand as strong as Ace-Jack, because getting shoved on would be a nightmare, but it does actually look like, those look like raising chips to me, Dara.
Yeah, it looks like he prefers the aggressive option.
And lapping,
Ooh.
Ace-Jack off.
Yeah, well, once the action ahead of you has gone open and 3-bet, Ace-Jack off
Yeah.
is just not.
A nice quick fold, and a
Yeah.
quick fold from Shell, who does want to go on his dinner break by the looks of things. Thank you to everyone who has joined us for this patch of commentary on day 2 of the IPO main event. We will come back with potentially a new feature table. If not, you will see more lapping. It's been a pleasure. We're going to grab our dinner here. I hope you guys have had fun. We'll be back in just under an hour with some more poker content for you.
There's the deal, is event number 17, the chip race mystery event, you blind level 100, 200, 200. That's 122 next time, please.
remind you that registration will close after 9, and today we're gonna play foot ruling mine. Here are some players in the eye roller. We are now ready to start with the level number 7. Small blind 300, big blind 600, big blind 600, 366. Please dealers, shuffle up anything.